morning, everyone, and welcome to Fox 5 on Fox Local. I'm Alex Whitler. It's great to be here with you for this news conversation, as I like to call it. So good morning to all of you who are watching on fox5atlanta.com. Of course, the free Fox Local app, and those of you who are watching on our Fox 5 Atlanta YouTube channel, you are going to be integral to this conversation. So if you are watching and joining us live, please feel free to leave your comments. We'll be able to see them in real time. So if you have questions about any of the stories that you see here this morning, feel free to drop one, and I'm going to try to get them answered for you. If you have questions, don't be shy. That said, we do want to begin this hour with a touching story. It's a procession for a firefighter, a hero who died in the line of duty. DeKalb County's second first responder to die in doing so in less than a month. You are taking a look at Preston Fant. He was a specially skilled firefighter who died while battling a warehouse fire. Here's one of the most touching parts that I've learned about him over the past couple of days. He was trying to help a fellow firefighter when he unfortunately died in this tragedy. So we are turning now to Fox 5's Lindsay Tuman, who has been covering the procession for this hero. It's my understanding that it started at 9 a.m., Lindsay. So can you walk us through how he's being remembered?
Yeah, good morning to you, Alex. We're here in Sandy Springs at a local fire department, just a few yards away from a bridge where Sandy Springs firefighters and police were lined up watching that procession pass underneath them on 285. The procession more than 30 miles long. It started, as you said, just after 9 o'clock this morning at the DeKalb County Medical Examiner's office. It passed under us on the bridge just about 10:30 this morning with dozens of law enforcement personnel, firefighters, and other first responders as well. And it was such a heartwarming and heartbreaking sight, really. Those moments of silence on what are typically a very busy interstate as they passed under us. Everybody paying their respects to this first responder who not only gave his life in the line of duty, but was also had given 20 years of service as a first responder as well. So this tragedy happened on Monday when Fant was responding to a warehouse fire in DeKalb County. This was a highly trained firefighter, 21 years in the DeKalb County Fire Department. He was skilled in swiftwater, high-rise, trench rescues. And again, just that tragedy on Monday when he was overcome by fire conditions on the scene and unfortunately passed away. He leaves behind a wife and 5 children, and fire officials say he was also kind of a father figure within the department as well. Even the fire chief getting extremely emotional, talking about a man he says always put others before himself while responding and in those moments afterwards. If we want to take a listen to his tribute to firefighter Fant as well.
Firefighter. He was a great family man. Interestingly enough, where I normally saw him was on a fire scene. Great family man. Interestingly enough, where I normally saw him was on a fire scene. And after the incident was over, he would ask me about my son. He got to know my son. And that demonstrated who he was. Only a person who cares about family asks about other people's families. As was mentioned, he was an extraordinary firefighter. Working at this station, as I mentioned, all of the skill sets that they have to have that go beyond just being a firefighter. You have to have a commitment, you have to have a love to the job, and that's what he demonstrated.
So heartbreaking, and just to think about all the lives he touched, watching that procession today, even as people were passing under the bridge and who saw those firefighters lined up on the bridge in the moments before they passed under. Folks were honking their horns, flashing their lights, all just those shows of support of so many people in the community touched by this tragedy. Now, the procession ended at the West Cobb Funeral Home in Marietta. Again, a 33-mile long procession. There's no word quite yet on what those funeral plans will be, if there's going to be any kind of public visitation, but of course we'll keep you updated as we hear more about that. That's the latest here in Sandy Springs. I'm Lindsay Tuman. Back to you.
Yeah, Lindsay, this is still such a heartbreaking story. I know that this firefighter was a father of 5, a husband. You can only imagine what their family is going through right now. I was listening yesterday as Chief Fulham explained who this firefighter was. And it was interesting to hear him say that he unfortunately met his family for the first time. A co-worker who he said he respected so dearly, but unfortunately had to break this news to this family in such an awful way. So we appreciate your time, Lindsay. I do want to ask, if you don't know, it's fine, but has there been any update on what might have caused that warehouse fire?
Yeah, at this time, they still haven't said what caused the fire. It remains under investigation, but as soon as we get those updates too, of course, we'll update.
We appreciate it, Lindsay. Thank you. Well, speaking of first responders, this is a pivotal week to honor and remember them. Locally, the city of South Fulton is hosting its annual 9/11 on September 10th event. And that's basically an opportunity to honor the sacrifices that the first responders made more than 20 years ago on 9/11 itself. So let's check in now with Eli Jordan. He is one of the photographers that we have at this event. It's my understanding that this has been happening for some time and will until this afternoon. So Eli, how is it going?
Hey, good morning, Alex. Actually, this has just started up. They just had the invocation and the singing of the Star Spangled Banner in there, and I am at the Emma Darnell Aviation Museum and Conference Center right next to the Fulton County Airport in South Fulton. And city leaders and public safety personnel and council members are gathered today to remember the lives lost in 9/11 in New York City, but also to remember the lives lost of first responders locally and across the country every day of the year. They're calling this the remembrance of 9/11 and beyond the call of duty. And I spoke with Adrienne Jackson, who's the founder of the 9/11 First Responders Appreciation Program, and this is what she has to say about the event today.
People as part of this program. It gets bigger every year. So this was a very difficult year in Atlanta for first responders. We actually lost a firefighter and police officer in DeKalb, and we have several people who were hurt. This year we have the first loss ever in the city of South Fulton, which was Captain Helio Garcia. So we're honoring his memory today. We're also honoring one of the 30-year veterans in the force, Algernon English. He will be recognized for his 30 years of surviving incredible odds. We have Beyond the Call of Duty Awards today from Officer Harper, who took a baby and did CPR on an infant, which is an unusual thing that's usually done a little different from regular ones. And then we're recognizing 2 officers who were part of the incident on Fulton Industrial. It was a double shooting of those officers. They're getting an Act of Valor Award because they saved each other's lives. So we're doing that today.
And tell me the importance of the date today. I mean, even though tomorrow is the 24th anniversary of 9/11, tell me the importance of this time of year.
This time of the year, people always know to thank veterans who served for us overseas, and they should do that for our military.
And here in South Fulton, they're not only thanking people who served in the military, but they're also thanking their own first responders who, as Ms. Jackson indicated there, had quite a year. Officer lost the line of duty, and then above, beyond the call of duty, saving the baby, and a couple officers shot. But they're not only remembering the first responders of 9/11 from 24 years ago, but also to the local first responders from throughout the year that help us out when we call 911. Alex?
Hey, Eli, we really do appreciate that. It's just striking to me how many times we've covered either officers who have died in the line of duty, firefighters who have died in the line of duty, and it just strikes me today that on a day that we are remembering a DeKalb County firefighter, they are having this ceremony. If I could keep you for just a little while longer, Eli.
Yeah.
I hear that there's clapping going on behind you. We're seeing some people headed on in. Can you give us just
we
a
can
little
probably
bit
ease
more?
in. I didn't want to disturb.
Of course, yeah.
Let me
I'd
show you
love
what
to
was
see
going on.
more
So,
of what's
yeah,
happening.
it's a little luncheon going on, and you can see that there's council members up
Oh,
there.
it's beautiful.
There we go.
Yeah, it goes to show that they take the work that their teammates do seriously. Do want to be respectful of the fact that they are having a somber ceremony, one that remembers those who have lost their lives in the most horrific way. So Eli, we do appreciate your time. We'll check back in with you. Let's take a moment to listen. You were just listening to one of many somber ceremonies that are taking place this week, all to honor 9/11 as we approach another remembrance for this. So let's focus now on your weather. And thank you to Eli Jordan, who just provided that live shot of that event for us from the city of South Fulton. Okay, so we know it's going to be nice out there. But you've been talking about how there's no rain out there. That's the part I love.
Yeah, the sound of that is really good, and the look of that is nice to start. A string of sunny days, no one is mad about that, especially after those frequent summer downpours and deluges that we've had to work with over the past 3 months. But as the pattern shifts, we don't want it to stay stuck for too long, and we're getting into a period of time where if we don't get some rainfall, we may be in a bit of trouble.
Okay, so this is when we start to get those viewer messages saying, Alex is so happy about the lack of rain, but we need it.
Yeah, we've had it. We both had it happen when we talk about sunshine way too long and not a chance for rain, and we get too gleeful over it. But we're starting to build on our Nets dry streak, if you will. So it rained on Saturday, so we'll start with Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the bunch, so that's 4 days there. And you'll see on the 7-day forecast in a moment that we're going to add another 7 to that. So I don't have any rain chances in the forecast. These are based on measurements taken at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. And for 2025, we'll start on the right side of your screen here. We've had 13 days straight without rainfall, and that was between August 24th and September 5th, so literally last week. We broke that up into Friday and Saturday. But when we go back to this time last year, do you remember what we were covering this time last year, Alex? We were getting ready.
Why are you testing
We were
me?
getting ready to go into what was kind of our peak of hurricane season.
Okay.
As we got into the latter part of the month, a storm blazed just to the east of the area known as Hurricane Helene.
Oh, of course.
there
That
were
was a
sc-
huge
yeah,
deal for our area.
A big time storm.
People are still recovering from it.
And especially as you look down south and going out east, and certainly the Carolinas to the brunt of that storm's passage. But you'll recall that there were days and days of rainfall before the storm actually made its landfall and its pass near our area. And that was not associated with the hurricane, but it basically saturated the ground.
Yeah.
And then we had flooding issues on top of that because the ground was so oversaturated.
Trees were more likely to topple. Just
Exactly.
a mess.
Yeah, it was that domino effect,
Yeah.
adding more to what was already a surface that really couldn't take anymore. After that, the atmosphere just said, we're going to give you all a break. And starting on September 30th,
Okay.
we embarked on a 30-day long dry stretch. In fact, fingers were crossed in the Fox 5 Storm Center because we were hoping that we would get to October 30th or possibly, is there a 31st in October?
Please stop playing with us.
Come on now. Is
Get
there-
out of my face.
Yeah, that's Halloween, right? Okay, got it. So we got to the 29th, and we thought that we could possibly eke out 2 more days in which we would be dry, and that would be a month without rainfall, which was something that had never happened here in Atlanta before. But a drop managed to find its way over near the bucket
I
at the
remember
airport.
that. The more you
remember?
talk about it, I remember
I'm
joking with
bringing back some
Joanne.
memories here,
We were
yeah.
saying if we could just break the record and move on. Yeah, it was one of those. If we're gonna get that close, let's just break it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I remember.
And I
yeah.
think we were more excited about the possibility of breaking a record than the fact, okay, the ground needed a little bit of moisture.
Of course.
So as we take a look at your rainfall update for the here and the now, let's look at where things stand. Let's take a look at this, guys. Okay? Today, for the month, that is September,
Okay.
and for the year, 2025, we are now in a rainfall deficit. So yes, we like these sunny, rain-free days, but it looks like we're getting into a bit of trouble. The signs of a possible changeover to a more soggier pattern, or at least a damp pattern, they're not there. This is a 6 to 10 day outlook, Alex. Look at all of that, well, we'll call it light orange shades
Okay.
that we see on either side of the Mississippi River Delta going up into the Great Lakes. That indicates that we'll have below average precipitation amounts. And precip during this time of the year is simple, it's just all rain. So it looks like we're going to enter into a dry pattern. In fact, there is a slither of West Georgia that will be slightly below normal over the next 6 to 10 day period. And so here's what it looks like. These are your rainfall expectations across the interior eastern United States. Zilch, a big 0 there. Let me see if I can add insult to injury. We're about to warm the temperatures up. We've been whispering about 90s over the past 24 hours because
that
that's
we
where
have.
the forecast is leaning. Okay, you add a bit of heat to already dry ground, talking about 85 plus degree heat. This is what you have in your hands. We have temperatures that are above average, rainfall chances that are below average. Yeah, you have a scorched and a parched ground.
Okay.
So I know many farmers, gardeners out there, people who want to keep their lawns green. This is not great news. You're going to have to water it yourself. Hopefully we don't run into any issues, but we'll be checking the river and lake levels as we go through the next week just to make sure we're not in any major territory for some possible impacts to
Yeah.
the water system.
Yeah, weather really does impact us all more than just like if you're going to put your hair in a bun or not, right? It's literally the stuff that grows our food.
It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah.
And there are many people, especially outside the metro, who always give a nod to folks
Yeah.
who are a little bit closer to the land than we are in this asphalt or concrete jungle here, the urban heat island. Yeah, we need our water.
Yeah, Jonathan, we appreciate it. Thank
Indeed.
you. All right, you guys, we hope you'll stick around because we still have much more to talk about. We know a lot of you are interested in getting into the TV and film industry. Well, stay with us because we have Tess Hammock from our casting call coming up right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to Fox 5 on Fox Local. Joining me now is Tess Hammock.
Hello.
To talk about all of these casting call announcements. It's been a while, Tess,
has.
since
I'm
we've
so
been
excited.
in the same vicinity. Yeah, good to see you.
I know, always great to be with you, Alex.
Yes.
So we've got some awesome castings for you guys today, so I'm really excited to talk about them.
Let's hear about it.
All
you know
right.
people love this segment.
Oh, they really do. But I will say, the very first one is one I'm really excited about.
Okay.
It is Scary Movie number 6.
All right.
Listen, I'm not one for a sequel, but I am one for like a 6-part. I don't know.
You know what's
I love
funny?
it.
When I was reading your notes and it said Scary Movie, I thought it was one of your
Unnamed.
generics, one of the like to be determined, I'll tell you more
Nope.
later. This is for the Scary Movie
Movie.
franchise.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
absolutely. And this one's great because we're approaching spooky season.
Yeah.
And so this is a really great opportunity for you to get kind of in that Halloween spirit because they're going to be filming October through November. And they're
Nice.
looking for a wide variety of people, any gender, any age, any ethnicity, which is great, which is really wide open. And so, you know, they're going to be filling roles anywhere from FBIs and detectives to news reporters to general townspeople, kids, teens, adults. Everything that you might fit into, this is going to be perfect for that. So you're going to go to HiltonCasting.com for that. That's Hilton with a Y. And you're going to be able to make your profile there, put what dates you're available, and then you're going to be able to get cast for that. But very exciting, you know,
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah. Do you think that these people will be able to work with some of the iconic faces that we remember?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
You'll definitely be in scenes with them for sure. Some more than others, but you know, always really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a great way to get your foot in the door, or
I
to keep
know.
your foot in the door.
Keep your
yeah.
foot in the
yeah.
door.
What else you got?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this next one we have is an unnamed project.
Okay.
So again, don't sleep on these unnamed projects, but this one is perfect for my country music musicians and bands, which is really exciting. I love good country music.
Yeah, me too.
So this one's awesome. Again, an unnamed project, but they are looking for individual musicians and bands, people specifically who play guitar, bass,
Okay.
drums,
Okay.
keyboard, and my favorite, the banjo. You can pick a banjo. I love a good banjo. Listen,
Yeah.
and with Fall in the Air, it feels very autumnal.
It does.
But this one's going to be great. So make sure that you have your pictures, your recent photos, your links to your performances. You can email all of that plus your contact information to extrascastingatl@gmail.com. Put in your subject line, musician, and that's how you're going to get on.
Yeah, but
Very
be a
fun.
good musician, right? Like we're looking for the best of the
Listen,
best for this.
If you're not very good and you apply, don't tell them you heard it from me, okay? Don't put that on me. All right, let's make sure that we're good.
what
okay?
do they shoot your shot 2025? So as I just said that, you know, there's your free opportunity. Just don't say Tess sent you if you
Don't.
know that you're not working
If
with
you
your
are,
best.
if you've been meaning to pick up guitar and
Yeah.
you're like, this is my chip. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best of luck to all of those.
Best of luck.
What else is new?
Yeah, so we've got some opportunities for you guys to network and be in a part of the industry. The 10th annual WIFTA, which stands for Women in Film and Television.
Oh, nice.
They are having their short film showcase this Saturday.
Okay.
So the 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's going to be at SCAD Show right there in Midtown. And what does this mean for you? Well, there's going to be some networking opportunities there. There's going to be a showcase of talented female filmmakers. Panels, I love this, Alex, because these
listening.
panels are all about leading through change, strike after effects, which of course we know. We heard a lot about the strike a few years ago,
Yeah.
and it's still rippling through our industry today.
As much as we don't want to
As
admit
much
it.
as we
yeah.
don't want to admit it,
yeah.
it is still, and then of course the business of indie filmmaking, and then a short film awards show, which I love.
Okay.
You can go to tinyurl.com/WIFTA, WIFTA Summit, WIFTA Summit, and you can register and get your tickets there.
Okay, I like the idea of networking. You got to keep your face in front of some high-profile people to make opportunities happen.
You sure do.
Yeah,
you
that's
sure
a good
do.
one.
Now, the second thing we have, I'm very excited about because I actually took this class. This is called Improv for the Actor.
Now, wait a minute. Did you know that we had a segment
I
on Good
did
Day
know.
with? Okay,
Yep,
great.
I
With
did
Drama
know.
Inc. It was great. They had me out there saying "yeehaw" and all these sorts of things. It was a lot of fun.
I love to hear you yeehaw.
You know, I mean,
Alex.
like that was me toning it down out of
Guys.
respect to the viewer.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
might have broken some
Listen,
eardrums last
no,
time.
No. I wanna hear the full cover. Yeah, I do.
Maybe in the break.
Maybe in the break. But this is a 6-week class.
Okay.
It's going to be starting October 16th. You're going to learn a lot of different things. Learn short scenes for commercials, which is great. As a commercial actor, I use improv all the time. A lot of times, your direction might be, hey, do it straight, exactly as you read it in the script, and then improv another take. So
Makes
that's
sense.
very, it's great to have this under your belt. It's a great skill. You're going to learn character and object work, lots of things like that. You can go to tinyurl.com/castingcallimprov to secure your spot there.
Okay. Now, Tess, I know you gave us a full list of opportunities.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, so if this was of interest to you guys, don't worry about it. We're going to have this and more posted to the free Fox Local app. Maybe you're watching on it right now, and also on fox5atlanta.com. Just click under the Good Day section. I think that'll help you out there. Thank you so much, Tess, for
Thanks,
your time. We
Alex.
appreciate it. Please stick around because we have a lot more to talk about in the news department, like those hundreds of Korean nationals who are trying to get back to their home country. We're going to talk about that with Deidre Dukes on the other side of this. Good morning and welcome back to Fox 5 on Fox Local. Lots of news to catch you up on because it's always a developing situation, right? Well, hundreds of South Korean nationals are going to have to wait a little bit longer for their flight to get back home. That's because the original plan, that charter operation to take 300 plus of them, these ICE detainees, has been postponed. It was supposed to happen today at 2:30. We're working to get some information about when that flight could actually take off. So for that, let's tune in with Fox 5's Deidre Dukes. She's live covering it all for us. Hi, Deidre.
Hi, Alex. And as you said, still a lot of unanswered questions surrounding the flight and if and when the South Korean nationals will depart here from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. I'm going to step out of the way here so you can see the scene at this hour. That flight that was set to take those South Korean nationals back to South Korea did land here at around 10 this morning, landing here at the international terminal and then taxiing to a ramp in the South Cargo area here. Now, we do have video of that aircraft taking off this morning as it departed from South Korea for the U.S. The South Korean nationals detained by ICE during last week's raid at the Hyundai plant near Savannah were scheduled to be transported here to Hartsfield-Jackson's international terminal today. Now, they were expected initially to board a flight out of the country at around 2:30 this afternoon. More than 300 South Korean nationals, as we have been reporting, were among 475 people detained, and federal authorities saying that the raid targeted individuals accused of violating immigration laws. Now, officials said that those individuals were working illegally at the battery facility, which is one of the largest foreign investment projects here in the state of Georgia. Now, those detainees were sent to be bused here today to board a flight for South Korea. This morning, we learned from airport officials that plans had changed and that the transport and removal operation we were told that had been scheduled for this afternoon will not take place today. So it is unclear when or if that transfer will be rescheduled. And for now, federal officials have not released additional details about the status of those in custody, but we continue to monitor that for you and expect to hopefully have an update for you at noon today. Alex.
Yeah, Deidre, this is an interesting development. Just to give people some inside baseball here, since this is the platform to do so, I was on that meeting, that call with you at 9 a.m. when we got the email. Tyler Finger, one of our colleagues, said, wait a minute, you guys, this isn't happening today. And I'm just curious as to if there's been any indication as to if it could happen tomorrow, next week. Has any other source gotten back to you or any of our other teammates?
Well, as you know, this is a very fluid situation, so we are as the general public is learning kind of minute to minute what's going on with this situation, because of course you are dealing with the U.S. government as well as South Korean officials, and so both sides remaining pretty tight-lipped as far as the operation. In some instances, we are monitoring the international press and getting at times more information than we're getting, frankly, from our own U.S. government. But at this point, we have not heard from officials on either side as to the status of those individuals who initially were supposed to board that charter flight to return to South Korea today.
I was doing some research on this, and naturally, immigration attorneys are involved. They say that many of these detained workers, as I look at my notes here to my left, were skilled for specialized jobs, and they didn't plan on being in the country for more than 75 days. So it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, comes of this, if some of them will be able to come back to continue their short-term work. Deidre, we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
sure.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Thank
you off. If you had something else to add, we welcome
Oh.
it.
No, that's okay, Alex. Just to follow up to what you said, as you know, this is creating a domino effect here across the country as far as concerns by foreign nationals who are working at facilities similar to this battery plant that was being built, as to how this could impact the work and their status there.
Yeah, it really is a greater conversation. I'm a little tight on time here, but I do want to point out that it started this conversation about what's happening at Home Depots. You know, they are often a hub for skilled laborers. People have been talking about how the president is adamant that he wants other countries to respect our immigration laws. So it is definitely starting up a wider conversation. Thanks, Deidre. Well, we do have several other top stories to keep you all abreast of. This is a sad one. It's never good news when we're talking about a shooting, but it's especially upsetting to tell you a teenager has been shot dead at an apartment complex. It happened September 9th at the Villages at Carver Apartments. Police haven't identified the shooter or determined a motive. We know it's still the early stages of this investigation, but investigators are going to scour surveillance video. They're pelting the ground, trying to find some witnesses to see if they know anything. So let's check in with Caitlin Pratt, who has all the latest details for us.
Police at this point know that the victim is 17 years old. They don't know, though, who is responsible for his death. They're hoping to get some information from any witnesses, maybe from surveillance images there at the complex. We do have some video of where this all transpired early this morning, just after midnight. This is at the Villages at Carver complex in southeast Atlanta, right off of Pryor Street. The investigators say they got the call about gunshots, and they arrived there at the scene and found a 17-year-old bleeding on the pavement there. He'd been shot several times, and according to crime scene techs, multiple bullet casings were discovered there at that shooting site, indicating that there were multiple gunshots. Now, as for who pulled the trigger, that's still unclear. Here's what detectives had to say.
At this time, homicide investigators are on scene canvassing for witnesses as well as video. At this point, we do not have a motive or any suspect descriptions.
So no motive, no suspect. We're working to get the identity of this 17-year-old victim. As soon as we get any information, we, of course, will pass it along to you. That's the latest in downtown Atlanta. I'm Caitlin Pratt, Fox 5 News.
Caitlin, we appreciate that. Thank you. We do have several other top stories to keep you up to date on at this hour. I'm going to walk you through some closures that could be happening with Atlanta Public Schools. Then an officer-involved shooting in Midtown at a popular hotel. And then the latest on the Cop City protesters and the charges they face. So let's start here with Atlanta Public Schools and these possible closures. So essentially, there haven't been a lot of students enrolled at Atlanta Public Schools lately. We're learning new details about the options that the school district is considering to address this. They're hoping that it improves efficiency. So officials estimate anywhere between 11 and 13 schools could ultimately be affected because there are a whole bunch of different scenarios taking place here to try to fix it. So the first is they could reassign students to other schools. If you've spent any time with students and lived in an area in which they've had to figure this out, you know that that gets parents on edge. The idea of having to move their child to another school, potentially impacting their morning commute. The other option is to merge some of the schools, which again could bring some pressure for teachers who are already dealing with a lot of students in their classrooms. Many teachers already dealing with burnout, not just in Georgia, but nationwide. Other schools, like the buildings themselves, would be completely repurposed. So leaders are thinking about keeping certain schools open and adding seats for students in other schools. APS did hire a consulting group. That's sort of protocol for situations like this. The board is going to decide what of these options, if any of them, they'd like to pursue. So if you are interested, or if you yourself are a parent or a guardian of an Atlanta Public School student and you're thinking, I don't know about this, we've got further details for you on fox5atlanta.com and the free Fox Local app. I'd like to take a moment to just remind you all that if you're watching on our Fox 5 Atlanta YouTube channel, you are able to have a conversation with me about this. I like to call it a news conversation instead of just a newscast, because that's what this is for. I literally have our YouTube up right here live. So if you have questions about any of these stories, please feel free to drop them there, and I'll be able to relay those on to our sources and other officials. Our other top story for you is this officer-involved shooting at the Four Seasons in Midtown. Would you take a look at these images from what happened not too long ago? Apparently close to 1 a.m. on 14th Street, many of you know this very popular and posh hotel, an officer ended up getting a call for someone with a gun in front of the hotel. Officers say that that person ran toward a parking garage and they told him to drop the weapon. But as officers often say with these situations, they say this person, this suspect, refused. So police then opened fire, ultimately killing him. Sometimes we talk about how someone might be taken to Grady Memorial Hospital and they died there. This suspect died at the scene. So we're still working to get some information about who that person was, why they had a gun, and if they were from the Atlanta area. Lots of questions still remain in this case. You can count on Fox 5 to keep you posted. Another big story this hour is the latest on the Cop City movement. You remember there were a whole bunch of protests about it. And when they were happening, protesters were arrested. So 61 of these so-called Stop Cop City protesters have just had an update from a Fulton County judge who says he plans to drop all of the racketeering charges against them. So this was a surprise development for many people. Attorney General Chris Carr says he plans to put up a fight, though. So I want to backtrack a little bit for you. The judge says that he plans on dropping these racketeering charges, and the allegations ranged from hurling Molotov cocktails at police to supplying food to activists camped out near the site. And these are some pretty serious charges. If you remember, not that this case is at all related, but racketeering was a big deal for the YSL trial. So the whole idea is if people are orchestrating, working together to do nefarious things. Now, 5 of those 61 defendants face separate charges. They're pretty serious too. It sounds like those still remain: arson and domestic terrorism. So those aren't ones to play about. So lots to talk about with you guys. I want to make sure that you know that we are available to you right now, live in real time for this news conversation. So good morning again to those of you who are watching, not just on fox5atlanta.com or the Fox Local app, but also to those of you watching on our Fox 5 Atlanta YouTube channel. I'm going to keep pubbing that because one of these days we're going to get this conversation going. Maybe not right now, but I'm optimistic about it. Please stick around because we still have lots to talk about on the other side of this. We're going to be speaking with the Butts County Sheriff, who has implored people who can legally carry a gun to do so. We'll talk about the now national story that encouraged him to let out this message. Stick around. Welcome back to Fox 5 on Fox Local. I'm Alex Whitler, and we have some very serious news to tell you about this morning as we head on into the afternoon. Anyone who uses public transportation has likely heard of this high-profile story involving a Ukrainian refugee who was unfortunately stabbed to death on Charlotte public transportation. It has really gripped the nation because her death was caught on camera. You see the suspect do this horrible act against this young woman who was already trying to flee and save her own life from the violence that's happening in Ukraine. So we are now turning to Butts County Sheriff Gary Long, who has put out this message to anyone who has a gun to use it. And Sheriff Long, before I start to ask you a couple of questions, I want to give people just a little bit of the backstory on this. This woman, Irina Zarutska, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing her name, was just 23 years old when she was on the Charlotte light rail. And she had moved to Charlotte from Ukraine. She worked several jobs in the U.S. And unfortunately, her family says she's now going to be buried here because someone who had a long rap sheet killed her for no apparent reason. So good morning to you. Tell us more about why you say gun holders, legal ones, should be prepared.
Thanks for having me. You know, it's you said it best. It's horrific what happened, and almost 30 years of doing this, I would say that what I watched on that video was more than alarming. You know, there was 5 or 6 other men standing really close in proximity, and nobody did nothing. You know, this could have turned out a lot worse. I mean, there could have been a whole lot more victims, I would say, in this deal. But, you know, I think what we're getting to in America, you know, everybody wants to make this about a Republican issue or a Democratic issue, but it's not that. It's a American issue, and it's our communities have become soft targets, and there's not repercussions for what's happening for these violent acts. You know, the fastest way the states across the country like to save money is to put people back out of prison. I'm not saying prison's for everybody, and not everybody should sit in prison forever, but a violent criminal with a violent past that commits violent crimes should stay in prison, period. But I think as sheriff, it's my job to protect and serve. My deputies are going to protect, but just as this incident in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's not an officer on the scene, or there's not an officer assigned to everybody in a community that can't be there. So the first line of defense is that of the public. And it's, it was kind of like a light went off, and it's like, we've got to train our people to protect themselves. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to run firearms. We've been running citizen firearm courses. I'm going to run them every month as long as I have to run it to do this. And I believe when the violent criminal element realizes that in our county, we're not going to be soft targets. We're going to stand up to them. And it might, unfortunately, in this case, I hear this a lot. People will call me and say, well, Sheriff, I don't really think this could have been stopped. No, I don't either. It was so fast, so rapid, and so instant. There was no aid rendered immediately that could have possibly saved their life. So I'm also teaching the Stop the Bleed class to the public. But it's one of those things. What would have happened if somebody would have stepped up and intervened? Thank God we didn't have 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 people stabbed, because nobody's doing nothing. And it's just tragic. And 30 years of doing this, probably one of the worst senseless crimes that I've physically seen on a video.
Yeah, and we're showing some of that video right now while being respectful, of course, because the whole thing was caught on camera. So we are stopping it before any actual violence. Of course, we know the terrible fate that this 23-year-old ended up in, but we're also showing images of the suspect, DeCarlos Brown Jr. I want to point out that Charlotte's mayor is blaming this on the court system, saying that had it done its job, this suspect wouldn't have been out there on the train, wouldn't have been out there on the streets, wouldn't have had access to anyone, let alone someone who was already trying to protect themselves, trying to start a new life. So can you speak to how the court system, with just a few seconds left here, plays a role in this?
No, I think we see all too often, we're a little different. We're outside of the metro area, kind of a rural county. But what I see across the country is judges bring this up. There, you have RICO charges that there was probable cause, that the warrant's done. Just the case you talked to a minute ago, and a judge has just dismissed all the RICO charges. We see this all the time, and I think it comes down to the people of this country need to elect judges that's going to do the right thing, and hold violent criminals where they need to be. And that's not on the streets, that's in jail. So I'm going to agree with the mayor of Charlotte completely. And I think that's one step. That's one step of the problem, is the court system. The other problem is we've become a society that it's like we don't want to get involved in that, and it's not our business. But as sheriff, I am going to work tooth and nail, day in and day out, to make this community a known community, that we're going to protect our people, not just law enforcement. The people are going to protect the people. But yes, I agree with the mayor of Charlotte 100%, and that's where it all starts, is in the justice system and in the courtrooms.
I want to point out your own words. You tweeted about this. That's how we got you on the line and on our air and streaming with us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you said on social media? We have an image of it for those of you who want to take a look.
It's a very emotional video to watch, and doing this so long, and it's sickening. And I just, I'm a firm believer. It's common sense sometimes doesn't seem to be so common. But here's what I know. I have 30 years of doing this. An armed community is a safe community. Period. An armed community is a safe community. And it's just it deeply bothered me to see nobody intervene. And it bothers me that, look, I'm not saying it would have saved her life. I've talked to paramedics, I've talked to nurses this morning, I talked to one doctor. And I said, look, could her life had been saved if aid was rendered immediately? And they said, well, the chances are there. Not 100%, I'm not a paramedic, I'm not a doctor nor a nurse. So I was asking people, and it could have been, but it was just alarming. So I wanted to put that out there, but I want to put out to the public that we don't have to be soft targets. We don't have to be soft targets. And here, I had one comment on that post. They said, "Well, Daniel Penny in New York got arrested. He had to go to trial on this." Well, I can assure you this as sheriff of this county. I can't speak for Fulton, Clayton, DeKalb. I can't speak any county in the state, but I can speak for this county. If somebody defends themselves or a third person from a violent attack, if they went to jail, I'm going to jail with them. Period. Bottom line, I'm going to jail with them because they have a right to defend themselves. Even though this guy is walking off that train, has a knife in his hand, if somebody said, well, you can't have a gun on transit in Charlotte. I understand that. But if somebody would have pulled out a knife and stabbed him in the back and killed him, it's justified. He showed a propensity for violence. He just stabbed this lady, and he could have stabbed 10 other people along the way. So it's one of those things. Leaders in law enforcement need to train the community. Like, a lot of the community doesn't know these things. I learned this through the classes we teach, and it's our responsibility, I feel, as the sheriff elected in this county, to educate my public on how they can defend themselves, and that's what we're going to do.
Right. One of the producers just told me that Charlotte lawmakers are right now discussing this, as they should be. It's such a high-profile situation and such a heartbreaking one that you would imagine that they are trying to figure out a resolve here. And it might not be apparent. But I also want to point out our commander in chief, the president himself, and I'm looking at my notes here, has called for the death penalty for this suspect in this Charlotte light rail stabbing. If you look at this image on your screen right now, it says criminals like this, according to the president, need to be locked up. And he puts that in all caps. He goes on to say, and now her blood is on the hands of Democrats who refuse to put bad people in jail. And I also want to point out here that Charlotte's mayor has still secured a Democratic nomination, despite how political this has become, this awful tragedy. If you could, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that Atlanta has public transportation. We are often concerned about safety on MARTA. I myself was at a MARTA station after a Beyonce concert, and while I'm very grateful that everyone was okay, there was a bit of an escalator malfunction. People are constantly concerned about safety in these regards. So as I recognize you were the sheriff of Butts County, which is a little bit further out from the hustle and bustle of Metro Atlanta, but if you could just give us your 2 cents on how we could make public transportation a bit safer here. I recognize your light just went out, but there we go. We're back.
Automatic thing. You know, I think unfortunately, when someone of a violent nature is going to commit a crime, it's hard to stop. It is hard to stop, but you know, I think the big thing is in not all situations, just as her, she was coming from work, but you know, it's always safer on public transportation or going to a concert or going to a venue or anywhere to go in pairs. Of course, that's very important. But you've got to be observant. You know, the days of us sitting around thinking that nobody will do this or this can't happen here. You know, we're in a rural county. We touch Metro Atlanta, but it can happen here today. So you've got to be observant. You got to pay attention to your surroundings, and you know, if it doesn't seem right, it's probably not right. But it's a everyday challenge that's got to be addressed. You know, it's always, every time we have an issue, it's always there's a shooter, and we got to have more gun control. Well, this shows you clearly. You hear nothing about knife control, but it doesn't take a gun to kill it. Guns aren't killing people. People are killing people. And it's a problem that here's what I would say. We've got to put away the Republicans. We have to put away the Democrats. This is not a party problem. This is a people problem. And us as Americans need to come together. The leaders of this state and of this country need to come together and come up with the plan, which can be done. I'm not going to say to ever prevent this, but we can minimize the risk to that's using these transit systems.
Of course. Of course, this is a touchy subject because we know people say that phrase, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And then the conversation becomes, how do you make sure the right people are arming themselves? We don't have any more time, unfortunately. It has been great having you. We really do appreciate you taking time to speak with us here on Fox Local.
Well,
maybe
thank
we'll
you for
touch
having
base
me.
again. Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, we will be right back, everyone, with more right after this.